at least two other wonderful institutions in California to offer the agroecology farming and food pathways program. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for hosting us all today. And I'm just thrilled to be invited and to learn and share with everyone who's on the tour.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So without further ado, I want to introduce Bonnie Baruki, who will talk about her wonderful work at Ashby. Bonnie, you can take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really honored to be here. I hope you can hear me through the mask, but thank you for coming to the garden today. So this is Ashby Community Garden. We're in South Berkeley, as Mike mentioned, right off of this busy highway. We'll be walking back, so you'll hopefully we won't hear so much traffic. But I'll tell you, we're on LaShawn Ohlone land, and we're also standing above Derby Creek, the Derby Creek watershed. So that's a little bit of history of this land. And as far as I know, that there's two lots here, and from the records, there's only one spot where a house has ever been built. So as far as we know, I mean a permanent house, modern house. So on this side, we have been working quite a bit, and well, okay, I've been here about 14 years. So the garden has been around a couple more years, maybe 4 years before that. So it's been here a while, which is amazing because this is very high real estate value prices here. But the garden itself, it's not owned by the gardeners, but we have an agreement that and very little contact with the owners. So we're trying to keep,
they cleaned up that whole area because again, people were just dumping.
Okay, so we were trying to keep the land thriving and used for good purposes. So you can see some of we have some plots here. So we have some members, garden members, who pay a fee for the water. We're one of the few gardens in Berkeley, community gardens, that is not managed on city property. So we try to grow a lot of perennials, that we have that opportunity to grow perennials that will are great for the soil, and just a little bit different style of gardening too. You can see some of our pollinator friends. One of our missions is to support all the other life, particularly the pollinators in our community.
Bonnie, would you like us to show the video now before you go any further?
What do you think?
I think as you're talking about pollinators and everything, it might be good. And then you can come back and fill that part in.
Yeah, that would be good. And let me say, because today there's not many people in the garden now because of the pandemic, and also it's winter. So show the video to show a lot more of what we have been doing in the past, and you'll see more seasons. You'll see things growing. Sure. That sounds good.
Go ahead, Mike, cue it up.
Oh, okay, cool. Hold on, sorry.
Great. Thanks, Bunny. Y'all can see the depth of just the amazing work we do. Bunny, you want to take it away?
Sure. First, I want to thank, I'll say that music was from one of our garden members, Carrie Jade, her combo. So she's the drummer and that, so that music is from her, and here's her plat. We happen to just be standing right in front of it.
Wow.
Carrie's been a garden member almost as long as me. She generally at this time of year, her plot is mostly cover crop. The fava beans did not come up as much this year. We've actually been having a problem with rats in the garden. So, but anyway, that's her method, is to grow lots of cover crop, and seems like now this beautiful chard though has is sort of the cover crop. So we have about 12 to 15 members that do help maintain the garden. So they have their own plots like this. And there's a few around here. And they're in various stages. Some people, generally people come in the spring and start gardening more. The winter is a little bit fallow time. And then we have some community areas too. This is more of the herbal gardens. So we do have people that work with medicinal herbs here. And I think I saw somebody ask what was in the glass jar. That was, it was probably calendula oil. We make a lot of oils from the herbs. And generally we have herbal tours in the garden every solstice and equinox. So yeah, we'll walk back. And so this plot is getting ready for somebody to come to care for it. So we have composting systems. We're trying to do more of our composting on site. And then we've had several projects throughout the years. This one was with the Ecology Center. We had a class on collecting rainwater. So you can see we installed a rain barrel and off of our shed that collects a lot of water when it rains here. And then the overflow goes into a rain garden over here. So do you want to just show, we're just starting. I don't know if you can see much, but we have this little greenhouse tool shed that we build ourselves. And so we're just starting starts for the season.
What are you starting, Bunny?
Well, we're actually starting a lot of pollinator plants like milkweed. We're trying to really support the monarchs and enough milkweed to give away. But so that's one of the major things right here. It takes a long time for the milkweed to come up, to germinate, or to come up. So other things, so there's California poppies. Food plants will come later. I have a bunch of tomatoes and basil at home, but that needs a warmer. I generally start those inside. It still gets cold here at night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see. So, you saw chickens in the slideshow. Unfortunately, we don't have chickens right now. You need somebody who really, really is going to be caring for those chickens and managing other people caring for them too. And so, and plus we had, again, the problem with rats, and it just became too much. So we did, and also there were arguments. We had some vegans in the garden who kind of sort of, it was just a time we decided not to have chickens, but I do miss them myself, and they provided some great manure. I'm walking back to our herbal drying area. So this is where we, this has only been here for about 2 years. Here, and this is where we dry herbs because we have all these herbs in the garden. So we have these drying racks. And then we make teas and tinctures and balms. And we have given those balms and the teas to the community. To some of them we've taken. We have a relationship with EFAM, which is Essential Food and Medicine, and they distribute the balms and the teas to the houseless community. And yeah, I mean, tinctures, things that you ingest, we really haven't, we do make those for our own use, but you know, Mark, distributing them, that might be more complicated. So okay, let's see. So I showed you the part of the garden that's a little more developed. So we're gonna walk around to the other plot side. So these are two properties. They're owned by two different owners. And one of the hazards about being part in an urban space is on property that's not your own, is that this property went on the market. They wanted to sell this property about 2 years ago. So we had to provide access, and we weren't doing very much on it at that time. So actually, I think I saw that Dory is on your team, and Dory used to be a neighbor, if I'm correct. Dory's lived in the corner house, so she might know part of this too. So we're happy to say we're still here. It's been a struggle, but we are still here. And so this side, we have a lot more community spaces. And also we don't have any green pickup, so we have a very large pile of weeds that we will eventually turn into mulch and compost. So we have just what we used to have bees. We don't have bees at the moment. We hope to have them again. There's sometimes issues with insurance, but anyway, and neighbors. But now we have different neighbors too. So we're gonna ask them about bees. And okay, this is more of a memorial garden for a couple different people. Oruna Mamu was a community member. Oh, she passed away maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And another community person who died right after. He lived in Paradise, where the fires were. So Sharon Black. So that's what that is. What else do we have? We have a big pollinator spot here that needs some work. This is mostly the monarchs. We have a lot of California aster. I forgot what's down here. It needs some work. Some bee plant, but the California aster will be beautifully in bloom here. And then milkweed. Milkweed is pretty much dormant at this time, but that's what this plot is for. So we have more members coming over to this side and with plots. So we have a few members with kids now, which is really nice to have them around the garden. So they're kind of developing there. This patch is getting overgrown with the mugwort that was here before, but but they like it. They're growing there. They like to just come and, a lot of people just like to come and spend the time in the garden. Oh, so we also did natural dyeing. We had a gardener, Rachel, who grew indigo and madder root to do natural dyeing classes of, fabric dyeing. So that's what this plot was, an indigo plot. It might, hopefully it will be again this year. We have some other new gardeners who are really trying to do microgreens. So this is more of the food, uh, discovering what can you grow quickly and cut and come again. I think that they do require a lot of water and attention compared to the perennials, which probably a little more my style, but anyways, it's great to see the different variety of people working on different things. So we have hugels. Some of you might be familiar with hugel cultures, where we just use the debris and the wood and grow on top of it. And this one has been pretty successful. I've been cutting back some of the fava beans, about half of them. These already have gone to bloom, but I want to cut back some more of them and then grow squash. We'll be growing squash here. It's a perfect place for that. We've done projects. This is another pollinator garden. We've done projects with the Berkeley Urban Bee Lab. Gordon Franke was the director there. Some of the graduate students came in and gave sessions, and we found like 28 species of native bees in the garden, which is pretty exciting. So we're planting a lot of the plants that encourage the bees. Although right at this moment, a lot of this needs to be replanted. But we have evening primrose, of course, borage. The bees love the borage, and it should be calendula, should be coming up in there. But like I said, it usually, and there's a big vitex plant. It usually looks a lot, yeah, this usually looks a lot better. And it will. So, what else here? So yeah, this is more of the microgreens. I think he has, what is this? A radish, and I'm not sure what the purple one is. Any guesses what the purple little sprout is? Beets? I'm not sure.
Could be beets or could be a purple radish.
Purple radish. Yeah, it could be a purple radish. The leaves look like a radish. Yeah, and mustard. It looks like there's a lot of mustard greens, things like that over there. Okay, and then this all used to be flowering quince, because I believe that at one time this might have been a nursery. I'm not sure, but there was tons of the flowering quince, which kind of also shows you the evolution of the neighborhood. Because I'm not sure, it could be that Asian gardeners at one time planted a lot of the flowering quince here, and the plums. So most of the plum trees are the little Asian plums. We planted some other things, like a lot of experiments to, from little tiny trees that we started ourselves. There's a great loquat that's there, and we're trying to pecan, figs, elderberry. So this area here is fairly new. Like I said, it used to be just covered with flowering quince. We've kept some of them though, because they're beautiful too. I'll go back. Let's see. So this is the other side. We have our sink. We have water from the city, so that we're very lucky to have water in the garden. We did have a member who worked at the urban farm store and got us a lot of drip irrigation and gave it up. So we do have drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is kind of a pain to maintain, but because if it leaks, then your water bill can go up more. But the idea is that it is more efficient if it's working right to water. We try things like other watering methods. I'll show you. A lot of us are experimenting more with the Oya pots for this raised bed. It's kind of fallow now, but this raised bed we did with the over 60s clinic on Adeline, that they used to come to the garden pre-COVID, and this was their box, but we haven't. They haven't been able to come for a year. So I was showing you the Oyas. So we don't have irrigation here. There's two different. This is an Oya. This is actually one I made. You put the water in it. It's unglazed clay, and it seeps through to the bottom, and it actually does a pretty good job. And here's one that I made through with a flower pot. It has the base is glued to the bottom. And anyway, they don't have any water in them right now. This has been raining. So those are some of the ways we irrigate the water, but the garden. But yeah, I don't know. Does anybody, should I take questions? Does anybody have questions? Or yeah,
We've got a few questions. Let's talk about membership.
Okay.
How does someone become a member of Ashby? If they want to plot, what would they do?
That's a good question. First of all, we're all volunteers, so they would probably, it depends on how they found out about us. So they generally call, and it's right now it's mostly me.
Bonnie, we're losing your audio. Still losing you, Bonnie. For those of you that can hear me still, if you have questions to start putting in the chat, I know we were talking, I think.
We actually have we have people who do that. They're sort of, they don't have their own plot, so they don't pay for a plot. But like the guy who prunes the trees, we put them on our list so they get all the communication. So they're community members. And if you want your own plot, then it's a $75 to $150 to pay for the plot to grow the food.
For how long would that be, Bonnie?
For a year. I'm sorry, 75 to 150 a year. It's gone up a lot because our water has gone up a lot, and the water bill, and sometimes we've had to pay for things like the plumbing, and there are expenses, so maintenance expenses. So that's how we get members. Sometimes they walk by. It's encouraged for people in the neighborhood to join. And sometimes they get it from the Ecology Center website. I've seen people have found our name there, but it seems like recently it's more people just walking by to contact us. And so that's it. I think like we have a lot of long-term members.
The phone, you need to reconnect your phone.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Right. Can we go in the shade a little bit more? Can I keep moving off?
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
reconnect.
So I apologize for that. So maybe if there are questions and
Yes, other questions that people have, again, you can put them in the chat, and I'll relay them to Bonnie. I know one thing, Bonnie, you might want to talk about is people are formulating other questions. You were talking about pollinators, and could you talk about just the pollinator project that you all are doing throughout the city?
oh, sure, yeah. So I'm also a part of Transition Berkeley. And so Transition Berkeley is one of the transition town movements that we got a grant from the Chancellor's, UC Chancellor's office to install pollinator gardens and educate people about why our pollinators are important in Berkeley. Well, they're important everywhere, of course. There's no boundaries for pollinators, but this grant has to take place on Berkeley grounds. So we're working with Malcolm X School and Berkeley Technology Academy to put pollinator gardens. Those are our two school sites, and getting pollinator education to the students with handouts. And we're working with the Cal students on that. So it's a partnership between CalPERG and Transition Berkeley. So we have the two school pollinator gardens and then city parks. We have a Strawberry Creek Park, which is not far from here, and San Pablo Park, which is just down the street. We'll be doing public pollinator gardens there too, and with some signage and plants for the pollinators. Am I still? I'm not sure why I'm not getting on. It says preparing meeting.
Is that the right link?
Okay, hold on. I am so sorry about this. Preparing meeting. Oh, let me go back. I got the spinning thing. So they can't hear me except from your mic.
They're hearing you.
Oh, they are. So maybe we can just do that.
So Mike Jones had a question earlier,
Yes.
which was when you were talking about the drying of the herbs, what types of herbs are you drying, and
Okay.
herbs and teas are you drying?
Yeah, so as you can see around, we have a lot of rosemary, oregano, calendula. You can see the orange calendula, oregano. Okay, rue, some rue, hops, and then we have some more unusual ones like balm of Gilead, and we have the plantain. Oh, St. John's wort. Thyme. Mint. We have a list. So we also have a website called webegardeners.org. And on that website, there is a list of the herbs that we have in the garden. It's quite an extensive list of herbs. And when we have the garden tours, we go over what the properties of those herbs are. And, we love growing herbs because the herbs are perennials and they have so many uses. They're easy to, they're a lot easy to be careful, and they're great companion plants.
Bonnie, Lauren has a question, and I can help with it. I know you probably know too, but Lauren asked the question: how many community gardens are in Berkeley, and are we all connected?
Great question. I'd say, well, the best source is the Ecology Center website. So they have a list, and I'm just guessing 10.
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15.
Okay, and there are various states, various gardens. There are a couple of those that are included are probably the UC gardens, like the Gill Tract and the Oxford Tract, and then the ones on city land, Peralta Garden, Aloni Garden, Bancroft Garden. What else? And I guess are the church gardens like yours?
Yeah, the church garden is and Spiral and
Spiral
I
Garden.
guess Santa Fe right away is part of that. The Ecology Center maintains that database, and we're connected through what they call the Berkeley Community Garden Collaborative. And then Bonnie knows, there's, as part of that collaborative, there's a way through the Ecology Center in the city where, you can get compost and mulch and things like that that aid in the garden. And I know the Ecology Center, and Corinne Haskins has really tried to make sure that we stay connected. And I think for us as gardeners, we need to do a better job. I mean, Bonnie and I connect through a couple of other networks, but one of the things that our commitment is to really make sure that we're supporting Ashby and working closer with Ashby in the future, because just there's the amazing work that she and her partners are doing there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think other ways that we're connected. I'm sure there are several. Sometimes we invite people for workshops from other gardens, but there's Corinne did a cookbook a few years ago that every community garden put a couple recipes and drawings and things into a Berkeley Community Garden cookbook.
They want to know about soil maintenance.
Soil maintenance, that's a great question. Wow. We're lucky, we've had a couple soil classes here. So that's why one of the reasons for growing cover crops, that's one of the reasons for keeping as much on site as we can. So we try very different things. Like I have a biochar experiment map there. One side has biochar and the other one doesn't, or it has different types of biochar actually. So organic compost, we have compost tumblers, and we try to not disturb the soil. We have very many different styles of gardening, and a lot of our gardeners here come more from the permaculture style of no-till, which helps the soil. We have some people who do like to still till and keep growing. Okay, so when you're growing annuals over and over, it does deplete the soil.
I want you to move around.
Okay. So by maintaining more perennial cover crops, compost. So is basically how we're maintaining the soil.
Is that the composting?
Yeah.
We can go over there.
Yeah, we'll go over. We have a big tumbler. Yeah. This tumbler we got from the local carbon network. It's just down the street. Well, actually, this is one side has the biochar and other stuff, but so it needs to be tumbled. Let's see. So that's one thing that we are doing. What questions on that? Does that cover the soil maintenance, or were there any more specific questions?
There was another question just about memberships, and the question was, does the cost of membership completely cover the cost of operation?
Doesn't cover the cost of it very minimally. So we do have a nonprofit called VB Gardeners. So we have applied for a couple grants last year, but that's mostly for the education. The grants are more for the time that it takes to process the plants, or to grow plants, process plants. So that's more individual work that those costs cover. But the major costs are the water, and we have very makeshift stuff. So So our costs are pretty low for the general overall garden maintenance. And I'd say the additional things are more niceties. We get a lot of donations too. Tool
And the other
donations.
part of that question that the person had asked, and I'll ask it in this way, is the human capacity and the human capital.
Yes.
Is it all volunteer, or do you get
Yes.
paid interns or
No.
gardeners? How does that work?
Okay, it's all volunteer. We do have, that's an interesting question though, because we do have a couple garden members who, well, we have one garden member who is elderly. She pays other garden members to do some of her work.
Mm.
So it's informal. It's very informal. Most of the interns we've had are, well, the interns we don't have a formal intern program. We'd love to, but we don't have a paid intern structure because we don't get paid, and it's a grant. It would be, be nice. Maybe someday it helps us write a grant for that. But so that's how it works. It is a lot of work, and it is. I'd say a lot of the work also is those connections, making like maintaining the website, making sending out messages, getting back to people. Yeah.
On that note, Bonnie, as we can talk more about this offline, but we with our Center for Food, Faith, and Justice, our fellows, we might be able to work with you and dedicate a garden fellow to the garden. So let's talk. But definitely, that was a good question. That was asked. Other questions, if people can put them in the chat for Bonnie. We really want you to really get a feel for what she does. But while people may be formulating other questions, Bonnie, the other thing I'll ask you to lift up is, what do you think are the biggest barriers, not just to maintenance, but the full operation of a community garden in an urban area?
Insecurity. The biggest challenge is, like, we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow because we don't own the land and the city. So that's the biggest challenge. The other challenge is that we live in a very a kind of transient community, so people come and go. So we lost 2 of our garden members, really devoted garden members, last year because they could no longer live in Berkeley. That's a challenge. The membership rotates often. Getting people to have time to come, the time for meetings, holding meetings and have everybody show up. That's a big challenge. And there's several others. It's like different styles. Resolving some conflicts, like if something disappears, and those little things too. But those are small.
There was another question that came in about biochar. When you were talking about biochar, one question was, have you seen biochar making a difference either at Ashby or other Bay Area gardens that you are aware of?
Well, I know you did a big biochar session. I was on for part of that, and here I think it takes more time. Like, we've been using it for a little bit over a year. I'm trying to think when we got this. A year and a half, maybe. And I believe I have seen a difference. It takes a bit of time for the soil to work itself or to actually get incorporated. And I'll say the Gill Tract, the Gill Tract farm on the UC Berkeley property, they have done more thorough experiments, and they feel like there's a big difference using biochar. And they
Great.
have examples. They have some pictorial examples of the differences of plots with and without biochar.
Great. There's a couple of more questions coming in. One says, is anyone using the garden for commercial use? I guess, are they growing products to sell or whatever, you know, in any way? That's one question that comes in.
Well, when we had workshops, the workshops were for a fee. People could charge, I guess, we're a nonprofit, so we call it donation, but we give the workshop money to the person conducting the workshop. Commercial products. We just have started that. Melanie, she was one of the gardeners who now lives in San Francisco, but she was the herbalist who we made some oxymals out of vinegar and herbs, and we were selling them at the Biofuel Oasis, which is just around the corner. So that's about the extent. Oh, and plants. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is commercial, but we raise money for the garden. It's just raising, all this stuff is actually pretty much raising money for the garden. So we have a plant sale. So that's actually probably, I forgot about that. We sold $1,000 worth of plants last year. So that is another way. So we do have these little fun pockets of raising funds. We haven't had anybody come in and develop their business. It's that would be a possibility.
Okay. Another question says, if you had to choose which plant in the garden is your favorite?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Let's see.
You can show us.
Okay. Oh,
You can show us.
okay, let's go show. Well, I'll tell you my favorite one right now. For different reasons. The pepper. It's a manzana, little apple pepper, and it just has been growing continuously for, it's really hot though, but it's growing continuously for a couple years, and it always has peppers. These are my favorite right now. They're this purple lava bean. It's just, it's so beautiful, and of course borage with the little blue flowers. This is my favorite because it's just so dependable. It just comes up, and it's delicious to eat the flowers. So those are few, yeah.
The manzana pepper is, you said it's a hot, it's a spicy pepper?
Yes. Somebody said it was a ricotta, but I've learned I think it's a manzana.
Okay.
It's very spicy, and it's always growing. And I've actually been trying to use it as a deterrent for rats. There's a little pepper, making it into a pepper spray to put on things to see if that detours any of the rats. I don't know how successful that's been.
Okay. But we experiment, right? That's part of what we do, you know, and that's part of, you know, our purpose in agroecology, that whole, you know, campesino y campesino, farmer to farmer knowledge. I think that's really great, because I think that would be great to talk to some of our youth about, you know, really. Bonnie, talk a little bit just about your relationship, or Ashby's relationship, you know, when you're talking about the herbs and the solvents that you make. I know we had talked a little bit about your relationship to the unhoused community here in their community. Can you just talk a couple of minutes about kind of, you know, your perspective on that and what you all do?
Okay, so in the past we have collected greens, mostly greens, collards, chard, and a couple of us have taken them to, actually taken them to Phillips Temple for their lunch program. Where else? I take them to Harriet Tubman Terrace. So that's one thing, picking them, distributing them. So last year, we did get a small grant from NorCal Resilience Network. And so that's how we package the teas and the balms, the calendula balm for skin care. And we distributed those to the houseless community through mostly the Essential Food and Medicine is the name of the group. So we gave it to them to distribute more than, and Urban Adama, we've also collected some food for them. Yeah.
Good.
So
Other questions, please. Question here is, do you use vermicomposting? If so, can you show us?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Do you use worm composting? If
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah, can you show what you have?
Sure. We have a lot of worms that are just in the soil, but I'll show you. We need to do more worm compost. Okay. Oh, look at this. So it's not going too well. Let me tell you. So we have a lot of raccoons in the garden. That's one of the issues, the raccoons. And well, yeah, the raccoons really probably dig into things more. So worm composting has been harder because of that. And also because it just, you need somebody who's really invested in it and is going to keep it going. But we do have plenty of worm bins to do that. Yeah, there's a worm bin. We have parts of them around. We have a lot of composting stuff. It is the time. And if there was a grant, if somebody was getting paid to actually do the composting efficiently, it probably would be better. It would probably work out better. But there's, yeah, worm composting would be great. We do get the compost when we get compost offsite. We used to get the compost from Corinne, from the city of Berkeley, but we prefer the compost that Alameda County provides from the zoo. Yeah.
Question comes in, as you mentioned, rat and raccoons in the garden.
Yeah.
How do you deal with them? What do you do? What are your other main pests other than the rats and raccoons? But how do you deal with the rats and the raccoons as well?
Oh, it's so hard. When we had chickens, it was a lot worse, but I've had cameras in here and I've seen a lot of raccoons at night. But what we tried to do in the past, we had one member a long time ago who used rat poison. And it was a really bad thing to find poisoned rats, and cats couldn't eat them. We were highly discouraged that, because we have garden cats. We'd like to have the cats love to come in here, mostly in the afternoon. But so other methods, I just set hand traps, the old fashioned snap traps. And rats are pretty smart though. I caught a couple that way, but I prefer when the cats catch them.
Right. What about owl boxes? Someone asked about, have you considered owl boxes?
I would love to have owl boxes. I've heard that owls are coming back to this area more.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have owl boxes. That's a great idea. We have some nice trees that we could put them in. Yeah, for
Yeah,
the rats.
they are coming back to the area. Honestly, you know, kind of where I live in Berkeley, I actually hear them now at night. It's just interesting, you know.
Oh,
So yeah, we should definitely
yeah.
talk about that.
Building owl houses. That is
Yeah.
a great idea.
Other questions? Bunny, I want to ask you about, um, you know, food systems and education. You know, you talked about the education in the garden and definitely around pollinators. Do you use the garden as way, also as a way to do food systems education, not, you know, just for schools, but for the community?
Yeah.
And how do you see, you know, Ashby or We Be Gardeners relationship with the larger community in terms of educating them about
Yeah.
changes in the food system or
Right.
agroecology just in general?
So so we did have a grant with Heart to Heart, the Berkeley agency that distributes food. We had a grant to bring people from the over 60s clinic on that's very close to here, Alcatraz, and for that very purpose, a nutrition class, and they got lunch. So a really good lunch. Sometimes I made it. Sometimes I would go to like the local places around here and get the food, good food. And so just sharing that food together, and then with handouts and learning about the nutrient densities of different vegetables. Well, first of all, getting to a plant-based diet, more of a plant-based diet. So first of all, it's that shift. Why is it important to have more of a plant-based diet? Then second of which foods have the highest nutrient density, and you know, showing them the lists and how easy it's interesting. Lots of those high nutrient density foods are easiest to grow and harvest. So so that was it. That class was planned, and we can't do things right now, of course, on things like that in the garden. So, but you know, post pandemic, that's the plan to use more of the space. We have this, you know, pretty good setting. It's nice for people to come and get outside. So we do have that space for the workshops and the capacity. We have a library of all kinds of books, and but I'd say just people learn by enjoying what they're doing and having some good food.
Okay, a few more questions coming in. One says, how many hours per week do you devote to the garden, and how many members do you work with?
How many hours and how many members?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Too many hours, but how many hours? It really depends on the season. I'd say when COVID first hit, we had a surge of people who wanted to become garden members, and that took many hours. It took many hours to meet with the people here. I don't know, like, okay, back to quantities. I probably spend 10 to 15 hours a week here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just say that. And members. Members. Actually about the same, the same amount. There's mostly people who are interested, and I meet them here. a lot of people, you know, decide that they don't have the time. Um, but actively, you know, probably another 10 members that I have a lot of communication with. We have other members that are just, they've been here so long, they're just pretty much on their own. They just come in and I don't have too much interaction unless I happen to see them, which is rare now.
Other question, as you talked about the vulnerability due to the uncertainty of land use, question is this common for most community gardens, or are most others on publicly owned land?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's very common with the Gill Tract garden, that they're never know what's going to come up, yeah, for them, because they're university land, which is, the university isn't necessarily putting the most high regard in land for growing food right now. So the other public ones are the one, if they're on a city park, actually, I think that there's probably going to be more potential, like you mentioned, the Santa Fe right away. Those spaces within the neighborhoods will probably be more of the key to how community gardens can be more secure. If they're
and I would add, Bonnie, with that, before we get to a couple of the other questions, you know, and I say this, obviously, you know, our garden is on church property, but one of the things we've got to be able to talk about, and one of the students in our first cohort with Mesa wants to really do a project about the unhoused community, affordable housing, and urban farming. And, you know, Michael and I can really talk about, even in the church, because there are some people that really gravitate more towards affordable housing, and oh, you guys are trying to maintain open space, and all this food system stuff is okay, but people need to be housed, and we need property to and there was, Michael and I've had some real fights with folks, even within the church, to just say, like, you know, if we just clear this whole thing out and just build, you know, more housing. And we have a small affordable housing project on the other side, but, you know, we want to try to maintain open space and, you know, and garden space and food security. And so it's a very complicated issue that gardeners and farmers are dealing with, especially in urban areas. There's a question here that says, that asks, what was your experience with the beehives when you had
That's a great question too. So the reason we have our nonprofit is We Be Gardeners is because we were very active in, we had people who were who maintained beehives and that, and also Bayer. You're familiar with Bayer and the neonicotinoid pesticides. That Bayer is just down the street. So we're a very active group of people, probably bringing out those issues of how neonicotinoids affect the bees. So, so we did have bees, for you saw in our slideshow. So what happened with them? There's two things. First of all, the bees did not thrive; they disappeared. The last bees we had, some of them did die. I wasn't taking care of the bees here. I have my own bees in my backyard, so you know, it could have been they went into the neighboring places that had used some lawn pesticides, possibly. And the other issue is our neighbor here. She used to have a son, that our former neighbor, Dory says she might have remembered her. Mila, she used to have, her son was autistic, and she felt that he could not come out. He was so afraid of bees. But I really believe that they were the wasps from not bees.
Right.
but we wanted to be good neighbors. So that was another reason why we just stopped maintaining these.
Another question comes in. What is one improvement that you would like to see happen to the garden in
Yeah.
2021?
Wow, a lot of them. Well, you know, it'd be great, Mike, to have more ADA access, to just be more accessible, to have real pathways. I don't know, that's a big job, but and also just to have more garden coordination. Like you know, it's a lot for me to. I don't want to be the only garden coordinator.
Sure.
So to have more active people who want to step up and do a little bit more of that.
Definitely. Again, that's one of those things that you and I can talk about some more offline, and some strategies of collaboration. Definitely. Other questions people have? Other questions? One that I would put up, if other people are thinking, you know, obviously in this area, in Berkeley in the East Bay, because of its proximity to the university and so many other urban farms and community gardens, you know, we talked a little bit about the network that Lauren raised about questions for Berkeley Community Gardens, but what about other institutions? Berkeley Food Network up at Cal, the Berkeley, the Berkeley Food Institute up at Cal, and the Berkeley Food Network down on 4th Street. Do you work with other institutions, either around, you know, the larger pictures of food resource and distribution, or just research in urban areas, or just for viability and sustainability? What are your relationships with, you know, with other institutions like the Berkeley Food Institute, the Berkeley Food Network, or others that either seek to advance food resource and sustainability through agroecosystems, or protection? I think you talked a little bit about everything from the Pollinator Project, but how do institutions, public and private, help you maintain the viability of what you're trying to do at the Ashby Garden?
I am not that familiar with the food institutes. I mean, I know about them, but we don't have a connection because I don't really personally know people from there. The largest connection we have is probably with the Alameda Ag Extension with Rob Benetton. That is probably, he is our largest connection with anything to do in that realm. Some with the Ecology Center a bit, because we're so close. So those are really the only two. I have not worked with any of the other ones that you mentioned. They have not approached us.
All right, we'll make some connections. We'll work with you to make some of those connections.
Okay.
Here's one for the capacity of soil needed in your garden. Do you prefer making your soil or buying in bulk, organically, of course?
Prefer making it. Yeah, I really believe on using everything that's on your site, and it's work. Yeah, I really believe there's so many resources out there that you don't need to go and buy them.
Right.
Yeah, we rarely buy soil. if we don't make the compost here, we get it from, you know, from the city or from, I'm sorry, or from Rob Benetton, from the Alameda County. So that, so yeah, but you could see, okay. And also the same things with wood chips for the pathways. We have differing opinions as gardeners on that too. I don't like the bags of products of wood chips being brought into the garden, and some people just do it because it's so convenient.
Right.
Yeah, but there's plenty of tree trimmers if you can arrange with them. It just is a lot more work. Or leaf mulch. I love leaf mulch.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So make it on site. Make it on site if you can. I mean, it's a big difference as far as you mentioned the housing, the land use for housing or the land use for growing food and maintaining habitat. If it's never been built on like this, I think there should be some type of regulation saying leave the land that has never been built on to
Right.
Support, you know, natural systems and food systems, and build where building is already taken place, or put, you know, get people in these vacant places, all the
Sure.
vacant housing that is around first. So that's my answer to, I really think, just think, yeah.
Back to the soil beyond compost, as opposed to compost. What about soil mixtures? You know, for clay soils.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get more loamy type soils.
Yeah.
What about those types of mixtures?
Organic material, the more organic material. Our soil here, actually, because it's been built up so much over the years, I'd say that we don't have a problem with clay, with it being too clay. So just putting lots and lots of organic material. You know, first of all, if you have grass, if it's a lawn, sheet mulching is the first step, and then just add planting the roots, plant deep-rooted things like comfrey that pull up the nutrients and provide mulch. Those are the best. That's the best way. Natural amendments, but it does take time.
Great. Any other questions that we have? Bonnie, could you, if folks really want to follow up with you, could you put your information in the chat?
I'm not able to connect right now, but could you put?
I think Mike.
Yeah, you can put it in.
We can
for
have
me.
Mike do it for Ashby.
Yeah.
We can have Mike
You have
do it.
my contact. Yes, please. I would be happy to talk to people if they want to contact us. Here, let me see if I can find a picture. Maybe I have a picture. So I have the address. Oh, there's a website.
It's all good, and we'll get it to folks.
Oh, we do have a Facebook page. Here's the email.
Got it.
webegardeners@gmail.com.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then the very last thing, Bonnie, then I know you are right down the street from Biofuel Oasis.
Yeah.
Could you just talk a little bit about that and any, any interactions you've had with them? And
Yeah, that's interesting. They've been there for so long, and we've tried to connect. And it's only recently because Novella Carpenter, she was one of the original founders, and she was removed from it for a while, but she came back. So since she came back, she's initiated more contact. And she's a very busy woman too, though. But we really hope to develop more of a relationship and have some classes. They have a good list of, they've been able to develop clientele. So we'd like to do a partnerships of workshops and classes with them. And you too.
right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm checking the last thing. So everybody has We Be Gardeners in the chat. So please, everyone, if you could, please join me in thanking Bonnie. And we also want to thank our videographer and technical person, Sean. Thank you for a great, great job as things went over. And as always, Mike Jones, who really is the glue that keeps us going. So we're really excited. And we look forward, Bonnie, to continuing to collaborate and partner with you. We thank you on behalf of Mesa and all of our students and all of our partners and shared learners. We're really excited. And I see James Harrison in the chat. James, I'd love to connect with you as well. Michael and I, some things that we're working on for a Earth Day celebration. So let's all get together and talk.
Yes.
And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful weekend wherever you are in California, wherever you are in the world, Sri Lanka, across the globe. So we're just thankful and blessed to be in your presence. And we will see everyone soon. Everybody take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonnie.
That was fun. I hope to see people here. I hope to meet people
thank you, Bonnie.
face to face.
Mike, are you and Sean good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so I'll sign off and then I'll call you after a while and just check in with you, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, just keep playing the video again.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, this was fun. I learned a lot. Now it's so interesting to see all of this. It's definitely, I like it. Like you said, the land. So how are you, or how does somebody look at that? Okay. You know, definitely for my company, I like to do community outreach.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sean Durant.
Thank you.
All right, John, you're a lifesaver. Thank you so much.
Okay, do you want me to sign off?
Yeah, you can sign off.
Okay, I'll call you back.
All right.